Hi guys. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Denise. I am actually Michael's wife. I know usually he is the one you get to hear speaking and teaching and sharing, but today he has asked me to tackle another question from our Questions in the Box series. So today we are going to kind of wrestle with the question of how do I live a life fully devoted to God? And I love this question because I think it reflects a genuine desire in our hearts to honor God and to live in a way that tangibly shows we love Him, and that's a beautiful thing. So the word in this question that gets me is this word fully. How do we live a life fully devoted to God? I think that our bent as people is to devote the easy spaces of our lives to God while holding back those other spaces that are maybe a little harder to surrender control of. But we are talking fully devoted lives. So how do we do it? Well, we don't. It's not something we can just conjure up on our own and just make a choice. I'm going to live a life fully devoted to God. We have to wake up every morning with this posture of, you are God, I am not. I need your help to live in a way that honors you, and with a perspective that reflects your heart. And that's hard. I think that we want rules, we want checklists, we want these external measures that we can kind of cross off like, yep, doing that, I'm good. But in God's economy of grace, it doesn't work that way. He doesn't want our checklist. He wants us. So I think the starting point that we need to kind of lay the foundation with this question is that living a fully devoted life to God requires a genuine relationship with Him. No pretending, no acting, no striving, but just a sincere surrender to Him, giving Him access to all that we are, all that we do, and resting in that relationship, in that grace. And I know you're probably sitting there like, yeah, but what does that look like? Like real life, what does this look like? So there's a passage I want to share with you guys that speaks to this a little bit. It's in Romans 12, and I love the way the Message version phrases it. So I'm going to read that to you guys right now, and we're going to break it down a little bit, what I see in it. So it says, so here's what I want you to do, God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in you. So there's a couple things that I see in this passage. The first and probably most important that I've kind of already alluded to is this. We need God's help. We can't do it on our own wisdom. We can't do it on our own strength. We need Him included if we're going to live a life fully devoted and honoring to Him. The second thing I see is that it's the regular, ordinary, everyday things that we do that when we include them, include God in them, they can become holy offerings. Some versions call it a living sacrifice. It mentions sleeping, eating, work, walking around. I'll add in school, sports, family, friends, art, music. Where does God have you right now, and how has He wired you? Because there's purpose in that. Being a devoted follower of Christ doesn't mean secluding yourself or isolating yourself from anything that's not Christian. Instead, it's being present where you are, where God has you, because it's not an accident, but aligning it with God. The third thing I see is that living a fully devoted life is going to go against the grain of culture most of the time. And it's scary, it's uncomfortable, it's not easy. So going back to the original question, how do we do it? How do we live this life we've been called to? And that there's a couple different aspects I want to speak to. And the first is that we have to use God's word as the standard rather than the voices of the culture and the people around us. We need to lean into God's strength, especially to keep going when things get hard, because it's going to get hard. And we need to put people in our life who will affirm and encourage us in our faith and in our walk with the Lord. Lastly, I see that we need to learn to recognize God's voice, and we also need to be quick to obey and respond to that. But in this, I just want to say that we need to give ourselves the same grace and patience that God gives us, because it's a process. We are not fully arrived the moment we place our trust in God. We are a work in progress, and we're going to take baby steps. Just like you came into this world as a little baby and you will grow into an adult, the same is true with our faith. That last line says that God develops well-formed maturity in us. So we are just called to keep taking steps forward, keep trying to hear his voice and respond. And he will be faithful to reveal things in your life that you need to surrender before him, and areas that he wants to work on in you. So yeah, that's what I got. And if you want more specifics than that, I would encourage you to read the rest of Romans from chapter 12 on. There's a lot of concrete things listed that describe what a fully devoted life to God looks like. If you kind of want those concrete examples, it speaks of things like not being prideful, showing hospitality, loving your enemies, praying faithfully, submitting to authority. That is always fun. And once you have all those things down, if you ever get all those things down, keep reading, and God will show you more and more reflections of his heart that he wants to emulate in your life, and things that maybe need to be surrendered to him so that the fruit in your life looks more and more like his heart. And I'm just glad I get to be on this journey with you guys, seeking after the heart of God and allowing him to work in our lives so that our lives are a reflection of how we feel towards him inwardly. So thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.